Hey everyone, Lone Wolf Jedi here, and welcome to part 2 of my 2011 summer movie reviews. Now, before I continue on, I'm going to say that after I wrote out the script for this, I realized I have seen 14 movies this summer. That is officially the most I have ever seen in any summer. Matter of fact, probably any year in my entire life. Wow. And I'm 38, so yeah, that covers quite a long time. Okay, now let's get that out of the way. Part one was comic book movies, and these next two parts 2 and 3, are going to be about non-comic book movies. And boy, were there a lot I saw. Like I said, I'm going to make this into 2 parts. And since I'm doing these in order I saw them, this part will be the first ones that I saw, and the next one will be the later ones. And like the comic book movies, I will give a basic summary, my favorite scene, and rank them in the next part. I'll also tell you how I felt about it after the summary. But first, the legal BS. This is a private review protected under fair use. All content is intended for that purpose only. No copyright issues are intended. Okay, let's get started. The first one is Soul Surfer, which is the true life story of professional surfer Bethany Hamilton, based on her book of the same name. Basic story, it's a story of overcoming tragedy, and through her strong religious beliefs and support of her family, she achieved what she has done to this day. Her tragedy is that while night surfing off the coast of her home state of Hawaii, she lost her left arm. It was bitten off by a shark, and after recuperating and everything, she decided to go back into competition. Her first competition after the accident didn't turn out too good, and it discouraged her from competing altogether. Matter of fact, at the end of the competition, she gave couple of kids signed surfboards. But she also went on onto a trip with her church group to a country that was hit by a tsunami. I don't remember. It was one of the recent ones. Not Japan, but the one before. The one was hit by a tsunami before that. And after that trip, and realizing that she can still do this, she went back into competition and almost won. I'll cover what happened later on when I tell you my favorite scene. The stars in this movie were Anna Sophia Robb as Bethany, Carrie Underwood as Carrie Underwood as her church friend. Her parents were played by Dennis Quaid and Helen Hunt. Craig T. Nelson and Kevin Sorbo also had bit parts, but those are the main ones. There were some other people who played other roles, but the main ones were those characters. My favorite scene is at the end, when after Bethany caught a great wave, had a great run, they encountered, since she stood up after the horn blew. However, the one who won, her biggest rival and main bitch of the movie, had a change of heart and said they may not have counted it, but she did, and shared the victory with her. Now that's what I call good sportsmanship. Personally, this movie was really good, in my opinion. It was like I said, there was a true story, and it's one of the very few films where I actually cried throughout the movie. I cried through most of the movie. Yeah, I do have a sensitive side. So yeah, that is Soul Surfer. Next is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. And I'm going from a good one to a bad one here. This movie, like I said, it was not good. Matter of fact, I coined a term for it. Cow movie. What do I mean by that? Well, what do you do with a cow? You milk it. And that is exactly what Disney is doing with the Pirates movie franchise. They should, in my personal opinion, they should have stopped it at World's End. That's it. No more. because this one is a completely different story from the first three films, and only three people that were in those films return. Johnny Depp, of course, returns as Captain Jack Sparrow. I mean, in my opinion, no one else can play Captain Jack but him. Jeffrey Rush returns as Captain Hector Barbossa, and the guy known as Gibbs, the one that gets with is with Jack throughout most of the first three movies. He comes back. A small bit part that came back from World's End was Keith Richards playing Jack's father. That I thought was really when I heard that Keith Richards was going to be playing Jack's father, I was like, that sounds fucking awesome. Because Keith Richards, as you all know, is the guitarist from the Rolling Stones, and he was just when I saw him in World's End and Stranger Tides, I thought it was just perfect. Newcomers to this film include Penelope Cruz as an old flame of Jack's and daughter to the main villain, Blackbeard, who was played by Ian McShane, who reportedly only did the film because of his grandson. His grandson was a big, huge pirate fan and stuff like that. The story is a race to find the legendary Fountain of Youth, and all of its it was just a race between the English, the pirates, and the Spanish. And it was hard to find my favorite scene, but I was sitting there looking, thinking, going through in my head, and here it is. It was a scene where Jack had destroyed a device that attracted the mermaids, because apparently a mermaid's tear was supposed to be used in the whole Fountain of Youth, drinking the elixir from the Fountain of Youth process for some reason. And after he destroyed this device, he came down saying, "Did everyone see that? Because I will not be doing that again." Now, personally, I don't know if this was that was actually part of the movie, or if it was Johnny Depp breaking the fourth wall and saying he won't be doing the stunt again. Either way, it was funny, and also I think that was one of those one-time only type of things, because I've seen that a lot in some movies. One of my favorites was the bridge scene, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That was a one-shot only deal, and they were glad they got that off in one shot. Anyway, basically, Johnny Depp is trying his best to carry this movie, and it doesn't work. It is not as good as the first three. I mean, if I was to rank them from which one's the best, or rate them, I would say the first one was the best. The second one was okay. The third one was pretty good, but the fourth one, it's not. It is not. It sucks. Now for a couple of comedies. First, Bad Teacher. Cameron Diaz stars a gold-digging teacher who, after her fiance calls off their wedding, thanks to his mother, figuring out that she was a gold digger, she is forced to return to a job as a teacher, and at first wants to get with fellow teacher Justin Timberlake, who is rich, but fellow teacher Jason Segel tries to, get with Cameron Diaz, and she constantly turns him down. And she's obviously, trying her best. She even goes as far as, getting trying to get breast implants. That I think is just ridiculous. Sorry, I'm not really into that kind of thing myself. She continues to teach and ends up. And wait a minute, and after some self-realizations through one was through a field trip she had, she ends up continuing to teach and actually ends up becoming the guidance counselor at the school, as well as getting with Segel. My favorite scene is when a teacher who didn't like her tried to get her fired. First of all, one of the things that she did was, and this is going to be leading on to the scene. One of the things that she did was she switched desks so that she can find out what. She switched desks. Her room is across from Cameron Diaz's. She switched teacher desks, and she looked through the desk and trying to find any information that could get Cameron Diaz in trouble, and she actually does, but it it kind of backfires on her, and the police go in there and look for any kind of stuff in her desk, and they can't find it. She says, "Well, what about drugs? Yeah, drugs. Well, she's got to have some of those in there." Well, she forgot to switch the desk back, and they actually ended up finding the drugs in the desk in the other teacher's room. They assume that it's hers, and she was arrested. And at the end of the movie, well, towards the end of the movie, she was released. You know, they actually said that she was going to be leaving teaching somewhere else, which actually she was actually released. This movie was funny at some points, but when I left the theater, and I saw that I was still going. It's funny, but not funny enough in my own opinion. It was you know. The next comedy I saw was Horrible Bosses. Jason Bateman plays an office worker who has a psychotic asshole for a boss, who was played by Kevin Spacey, and this Kevin Spacey can play this kind of role perfectly. And he also has friends who also have horrible bosses. One had a cool boss who was played by Donald Sutherland, who, after a sudden heart attack, left it to his son, played by Colin Farrell. You know, even though I would love to have seen Donald's real life son, Kiefer Sutherland, play his son, and it would probably maybe it work out, maybe it wouldn't, because I've never actually seen Kiefer do a comedic role, but Colin Farrell, he did a good job playing a coked out jerk. And his other friend, Jason Bateman's other friend, was a dental assistant, and his boss was a sex crazed witch, played by none other than Jennifer Aniston. Yeah, she was constantly coming on to him, despite the fact that the guy was engaged to be married. The other major star was Jamie Foxx as their murder consultant, Motherfucker Jones. I am not kidding. That was the character's name. He explains why he got the name, and I'll leave that for you to find out. Anyway, the reason why they wanted reason why they were trying to get a murder consultant is because one of their friends, who's jobless and living in his parents' house, says, "Why don't you guys kill your boss?" And they said, "Okay, well." A couple of them were kind of reluctant, but one was more, "Hey, let's do this." So they hired Jamie Foxx as their murder consultant. But really, they didn't need him because the first part of their whole idea was to scope them out, survey them, do some surveillance on them first. And they did Colin Farrell's house first. And while they were there, one of them got so high on cocaine, and the other one was the other one got a little bit more, got a little bit less, but the other one was the dental assistant got most of it. Jason Bateman got a little bit of it, but the one who Colin Farrell's job was, the one who Colin Farrell worked under, he worked under Colin Farrell. He went up to another part of the house and found Colin Farrell's character's cell phone. Took it. Because he was thinking, hey, you know what, we can find out information on this. And they then went over to Kevin Spacey's character's house, and while they were in there, they dropped the cell phone. And they also found out through the character that was coked out because they left him in the car that Kevin Spacey's character was allergic to peanuts. Deathly allergic. And anyway, they left the phone there, and Kevin Spacey found the phone there and found that belonged to Colin Farrell's character. he was thinking that Colin Farrell was doing his wife, and being a psychotic asshole that he was, he went over to Colin Farrell's character's home with a gun, put one in the chest and one in the head, killing the character, doing them a favor, doing the other guys a favor. And they later on they found out that they were trying to find him, and they forced him to confess and wanted to get him arrested. Well, they ended up doing it. But the way that they did, I'll cover a little bit later when I give them my favorite scene. The dental assistant got Aniston on tape coming onto him, and this is one of the other ways that they got back at their bosses. The dental assistant got Aniston on tape coming onto him and said if she didn't want to be brought on charge and lose her license, she would stop. Basically, he was blackmailing her. Also, after Spacey's character gets arrested and basically tried for murder and put away for life, I guess, Bateman gets promoted to his position, and he has a new boss played by comedy veteran Bob Newhart. The guy with Farrell ends up with a boss who is a woman whom everyone thought was pregnant, which she wasn't. She was just big. Not gonna say fat, just gonna say big. And like I said, the dental assistant ends up still working with Aniston, and she's a little less persuasive towards him. My favorite scene is how Spacey's character gets arrested. They record him on a digital recorder, but it's not recording because I guess the batteries ran out. But since he ran into him with his SUV, their vehicle's OnStar said that their vehicle's version of OnStar says that they have to record every conversation happening in an accident, and they record him. They recorded him confessing, and that I thought was a pretty funny one. And after he got arrested, Bateman decked him, which I thought was, oh yes, sweet revenge. This movie was funny to me because I'm a working man, and I've had my share of horrible bosses. I mean, come on, all of us have. Finally, for this part, one of the biggest films this summer, Super 8. There weren't any major stars in this movie. Dakota Fanning's little sister Elle plays the main girl, the coach from Friday Night Lights plays the main parent, and David Gallagher, whom you all remember as one of the Camdens on Seventh Heaven. He also does the voice of Roxas in not Roxas, Riku in the Kingdom Hearts games. He plays a stoner. Other than that, everyone else is pretty much unknown. I mean, this movie was done by Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is well known for making movies with virtual unknown people. I mean, look at Star Trek. He did that. He made that with mostly unknown people, and it worked. And okay, so let's get on with this. The movie takes place in the early 70s and starts as we see a steelworker changing a safety accident sign to read 0 days. You know, one of those safety accidents has been such and such days since our last workplace accident, since this facility's workplace accident. I guess it was almost a year. I think it was either almost a year or over a year since they had it, but they ended up putting up I think it was either a 0 or a 1 because this is setting the mood for the next scene, which is I guess it's a wake at the main kid's house as his mother died after taking a coworker's shift because he got drunk, and she didn't want him to lose his job. She didn't want him to lose his job. That's just like a sub story to the main story. The main story centers around a group of high school kids making an independent film with a Super 8 camera. Hence the title, Super 8. And, well, when they go out and shoot this film, this independent film, which they were entering in a contest, it was the film is like it's one of those zombie horror film types. Like Dawn of the Dead or something like that. Um, they go to an old abandoned train station outside their town. And while they were shooting, a train is approaching, and the guy who's producing and directing the film says, "Oh, this is perfect. This is a perfect time to shoot this." Well, while they were shooting it, and while the train is going by, the main kid sees a truck go onto the tracks and go straight into the train, making it derail, and a train wreck occurs. And they film the whole thing. Now, one of the things is the train was actually being used by the military to transport stuff. In this case, they're transporting an alien and its various stuff that they were studying. The alien escapes and goes into their town and tries to gather parts for its ship, as well as it gathers some of the people from the town as food, one of them being Elle Fanning's character. However, they do end up rescuing Elle Fanning's character from the thing. And they end up saving her and helping the alien, making sure the alien is safe while it escapes, while it leaves Earth and goes home. It's basically the reason why is because it was I guess it crash landed on Earth years ago or something, and it was under it was under it was being tested on by the U.S. military, and it just wanted to go home. So that was it right there. My favorite scene concerns that sub-story. It's when the main kid's dad is with Elle Fanning's character's dad, trying to find, and they're racing to try and find her and save her. And Elle Fanning's character is the dad who is the character who got drunk, causing the main kid's dad's character's wife to die. He apologizes, and his dad says accidents happen, basically saying, "I forgive you." Not one of those accidents happen and pushes him out the car and runs him over. No, it's basically saying he was forgiving him. This movie, despite not having major stars in it, was really good. A friend of mine said it was like E.T., Goonies, and War of the Worlds all in one. I added it had a little bit of a Lost feel to it, and he agreed. I mean, and if you think about it, E.T. and War of the Worlds, the remake, were both made by Steven Spielberg, and Lost, that's a TV series that was made by J.J. Abrams. So that's why it had all that together, it had all that at once. The reason why it was E.T. is because the alien wanted to try and get home, and Goonies, a bunch of kids having an adventure. War of the Worlds, there was actually a scene where the military was shooting up the town, much like the way they did in the War of the Worlds movies, the old one, the remake. And the reason why I say this had a Lost feel is because it actually that's how J.J. Abrams does some of the stuff. It has like that Lost feel to it. Because I was a fan of Lost for the first 3 seasons. After the third season, it kind of got boring to me. And I would have to say Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams, they did a good job with this film. As a matter of fact, I think I see this as being a possibility of one of the 2 films this summer I see as possibly being nominated for Best Film at both the Oscars and the Golden Globes, because it was that good in my opinion. The other film I see will be in the next part. And speaking of that, that's going to do it for this part. Join me next time when I review Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Cowboys and Aliens, The Help, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and The Change-Up. Until then, this is Lone Wolf Jazz saying thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Take care of yourselves.
You think you know me?